In a statistical enquiry, all the items which fall within the purview of the enquiry are known as the universe or the population. When we make a complete enumeration of all items in the population, it is known as the census method of collection of data. In population, we have two types. One is the finite population and second one is the infinite population. Hello everyone, I am Purnima, faculty in the Department of Commerce and Management, Vidhyaashram First Grade College, Temple of Excellence, MYSURU. I welcome you all to this session. In this session 2 of Unit 1, let us have a discussion on what is secondary data. Now, secondary data are those data which have been already collected and analyzed by some earlier agency for its own use, and later the same data are used by a different agency. So, secondary data means it is the data which has already been collected by some agency. So, for research purposes, there are various agencies which are doing research and they collect information related to the research and they just store it. So, whatever information they have collected for their research, so that will be stored in the websites, or it may be in the libraries, or it may be in any of the published data. So, anyone who wants to make use of it, they can make use of it. So, that data is called as secondary data. Then, the sources of secondary data, the various sources of secondary data can be divided into two broad categories. One is the published sources, the other one is the unpublished sources. Now, let us see what is this published sources. Now, in the secondary data, the first type is the published sources. So, various governmental and international local agencies publish statistical data and chief among them. So, almost all the government agencies and local agencies, they publish whatever data they have collected. So, what are the things that they have published here? So, first is international publications. So, international agencies and international bodies publish regular and occasional reports on economic and statistical matters. They are the IBRD, LCAFE and UNO. So, we have so many international organizations which are working for the betterment of the world. So, it may be the WHO, that is the World Health Organization, or the UNESCO, or the IMF, that is the International Monetary Fund. So, these organizations, they lend a helping hand to almost all the developing nations of the world. So, whatever work or activity that are being carried out all around the world, the data related to such activities will be collected and it will be published periodically. So, such publications are international publications. So, they just give information relating to all the activities carried out by the various organizations all over the world. Then the next one is official publications of central and state governments. So, the departments of the union and the state governments regularly publish reports on a number of subjects. So, whether it is the central government or the state government, they are regularly publishing reports. So, they gather additional information. Some of the important publications are the Reserve Bank of India Bulletin, Census of India, Statistical Abstracts of States, Agricultural Statistics of India, Indian Trade Journal, etc. So, some of the official publications which are published by the central and the state governments, they relate to the various sectors of the country. So, what are the various sectors? So, first one is the bulletin released by the Reserve Bank of India. So, the Reserve Bank of India is releasing its bulletin periodically. Then, next one is the Census of India. So, we all know what is census. Census means the survey of the demographic population. So, what is the population of the country and what is the demography of the population? So, all that they will give information. Then, statistical abstracts of the states. So, what are the various statistics related to all the states of India? Agricultural statistics of India. It relates to what is the production of agriculture and what are the various exports imports, and what are the various other things related to agriculture, what about the loans, what about the repayment of loans. So all these things we'll have in Agricultural Statistics of India. Then we have the Indian Trade Journal. Then the next one is the semi-official publications, and semi-government institutions like municipal corporations, district panchayat, board, etc. publish reports. So there are certain semi-government organizations which will be publishing reports about their activities during their period of the tenure. Then the next one is publication of research institutes. So Indian Statistical Institution, ISI, International Council of Agricultural Research, Indian Agricultural Statistics Research Institute, etc. publish the findings of their research programs. Then publications of commercial and financial institutions. So the publications of research institutions includes the Indian Council of Agricultural Research. So there is constant research going on in order to get new and improved methods of agricultural production. So all the papers relating to that, so that will be published by the such organizations. And also we have the publications of commercial and financial institutions also. Then next one is the reports of various committees. So the government will set up committees for any inquiry. If it is any inquiry related to any scam, so all such committees reports, they will be published. So the commissions appointed by the government, for example, the Vanchu Commission report on taxation, Pay Commission reports, Land Reforms Committee reports, etc. are sources of secondary data. So whatever the commission, the government appoints, so after their inquiry of that particular scam or any project, whatever the government gives, so they have to publish a report. Such reports will be published by the various committees. Then we have the journals and the newspapers. So current and important materials on statistics and socio-economic problems can be obtained from journals and newspapers like Economic Times, Commerce, Capital, Indian Finance, Monthly Statistics of Trade, etc. So, trade-related journals and newspapers, such kind of a news material will be published by these journals and newspapers. So, these journals, most important of them are Economic Times, then Commerce, Capital and Indian Finance, etc. Next, second source of the secondary data, that is the second type, is the unpublished sources. So they are various sources of unpublished data. They are the records maintained by various government and private offices, the researches carried out by individual research scholars in the universities or research institutes. So the unpublished sources means, so they will be certain reports or research which will be done by everybody, and such reports may be published or may not be published. So such unpublished sources, so that records will be maintained by the government and private offices. Next, we have the sampling design. So this concept of sampling design, let us see what is the meaning of this. So in a statistical inquiry, all the items which fall within the purview of inquiry are known as the universe or the population. The population is complete set of all possible observation of the type which is to be investigated. So in a statistical inquiry, all the items which fall within the purview of the inquiry are known as the universe or the population. So universe or population means they are those group of people from whom the information has to be collected. So such group of people or such group of the set of people from whom we collect the information, we call them as the universe or we call them as the population. The population is the complete set of all possible observations of the type which is to be investigated. Suppose you have to collect the marks of the first year BCom students, then entire class of that college, they come under the purview of investigation, and the entire class of students, they will be considered as the universe or the population. Then the term population does not necessarily refer to people, but it is a technical term used to describe the complete group of persons or objects for which the results are to apply. So, if I take the example of the class, if you have to collect the subject marks of the students of first year BCom class, then that entire class becomes the population, and such population, it need not be exclusively the people, it can be anything. So, it is a technical term which is used to collect the information. So, in population, we have two types. One is the finite population and second one is the infinite population. Now, what is finite population? What is infinite population? So, finite population means it refers to that population where the number is limited. So, there we have a limited number of people who are studying. So, it is a limited set of population, but infinite population means any number. So, you can ask any number of people relating to that subject. So, that we call it as infinite population. Then, second one is hypothetical and existent population. Hypothetical means something which is assumed and existent means something which is real. So, this is hypothetical means something which is in the mind, whereas existent means something which is real. Then, next one is the census method. So, in this, information on population can be collected in two ways. The first one is the census method and second one is the sample method. So, the object of a census or complete enumeration is to collect information for which each and every unit of the object of census or universal coverage, every element of population is included in the investigation. So, if you are conducting a survey or if you are undertaking a census, then what happens is, so we have to visit each one of the set of population. So, whoever is the population, for example, if you are doing a census of the Mysore city, then each area you have to just see each and every house has been covered and the information has been collected. So, we cannot afford to neglect even one house also. So, that is complete enumeration. When we make a complete enumeration of all items in the population, it is known as the census method of collection of data. So, it is called as the census method of collection of data. Then, next, what are the merits of census method? So, the data collected from each and every item of the population. So, this is the first merit because you don't have any room for assumptions. So, exact data is collected from each and every population. The results are more accurate and reliable. So, when you are collecting information from each set of population, the results are more accurate and reliable. Then, intensive study is possible. You can have an in-depth study of the population. The data collected may be used for surveys and analysis. So, whatever data you are collecting through the help of this census, it can be used for further surveys and analysis. Then, what are the demerits of the census method? It requires a large number of enumerators and it is a costly method. So, the government alone can use this method for conducting population census, production census, etc. So, the demerits are, first thing is, it requires a large number of enumerators because it is a very costly affair and you need large number of enumerators to go around and collect the information, and whatever information you have collected, so that has to be recorded properly and then statistical tools have to be implemented and then we have to analyze it. So, this is a very costly affair. Then, second demerit is it requires more money, labor, time and energy. Then, third one is it is not possible in some circumstances where the universe is infinite. So this kind of a census method will not be possible where you have the infinite population. Then next we have the sampling method. So the theory of sampling has been developed recently, but the theory of sampling is not new. So the theory, whatever the actual theory has been developed, but we already know what is sampling. It may be too expensive or too time consuming to either attempt a complete or nearly complete coverage in statistical study. So to say that you are having a complete study of the entire population, that will be too much. Further, to arrive at valid conclusions, it may not be necessary to enumerate all or nearly all of the population. So, in order to get results, it is not necessary for us to go and collect information from each one of the population. That is not essential. So, we may study a sample drawn from the large population, and if that sample is adequately representative of the population, we should be able to arrive at valid conclusions. So, whenever we are collecting the sample, if the sample is representative of the entire population, then with the help of the samples only, we can always predict very good, valid results. So, the results obtained from the sample study can be applied to the whole universe or the population. So, if the sample is very good, so whatever the results we get from the sample study, that can be applied for the whole universe. So, we can study the characteristics of the population or universe from sampling. A study of the sample will give a correct idea of the universe or population. So, a study of the sample will help us to know how the entire universe is. So, we should understand that sampling method is much more easier method of collection of data. Then, what are the merits of the sample method? The first one is it saves time. Second one, it reduces cost. Third one, more reliable results can be obtained. Fourth one is sampling provides more detailed information. So, with the help of sampling, we can get more detailed information. Then, sampling method is sometimes the only method possible. So, for collection of information relating to certain aspects of the population, this is the only method available. Then, administrative convenience. Then this is more scientific. The degree of accuracy is higher than the census method. So, if you compare the census method with the sampling method, we can say that the accuracy is higher in case of the sampling method. So, next we have the methods of sampling. So, the first one is the random sampling method or the probability sampling. In this random sampling, so we do not have a fixed way of collecting the sample. We just collect the samples at random. So, first in this, again we have a division here. First one is simple or unrestricted random sampling. So, you just pick up a handful of things for the sample. So, there is no systematic basis to collect the sample. So, just simple or unrestricted way of collection. Then, second one is restricted random sampling. So, in the second one, restricted random sampling, so you impose certain restrictions on collection of samples. Now, in this restricted random sampling, we have the stratified sampling. Now, what is the stratified sampling? Now, in the stratified sampling, so you just stratify the universe into different blocks and then you collect a sample from each block. So, that we call it as the stratified sampling. Then, second one is systematic sampling. So, in the systematic sampling, we have a systematic way of collecting the samples. Suppose you have a sample of 1 lakh people. So, you have to pick a sample from 1 lakh people. Then what you do is you enumerate all the samples and every 10th unit of that sample will be considered as the sample, or every 100th unit of that particular universe will be considered as a sample. So in this way, we have a systematic way of sampling. Then the next one is the cluster sampling. What is this cluster sampling? In this cluster sampling, suppose I am the enumerator. I just have 3 of my friends from whom I collect the information, and I collect references from them. Each one of my 3 friends, they will give 3 references, and in this way, each one, the network goes on like that. And out of the 3 references, again, I collect references from the next 3. So in this way, my cluster sampling grows. So this is what we mean by the cluster sampling. Now, the second type is the non-random sampling or the non-probability sampling. So in this, the first one is the judgment or the purposive sampling. Now, what is this judgment or the purposive sampling? So in this, the enumerator, he will use his judgment and just pick up the samples. So that is what we mean by judgment or purposive sampling. Then second one is the quota sampling. So the quota sampling means, so you have a quota. Suppose you have to interview 1,000 people. Then you just say, I'll just take 10 of them. Third one is the convenience sampling. Now in this convenience sampling, I can choose any of my friends or relatives as sample and collect the information from them. That we call it as the convenience sampling. Then in this random sampling, a random sample is one where each item in the universe has an equal chance of known opportunity of being selected. So just like a pack of cards, from a pack of cards, you can select any one card. So that is, we don't know actually what card will be drawn from that pack of cards. The same way, this random sampling means you can pick up any one from the population, and every unit of the population has the equal chance of being selected. So according to Dr. Yates, every member of a parent population has had equal chances of being included. According to Harper, a random sample is a sample selected in such a way that every item in the population has an equal chance of being included. So this is nothing but probability. So we don't know which card will come up. So such kind of a sampling, we call it as the random sampling. Then simple random sampling. So it is a technique in which sample is so drawn that each and every unit in the population has an equal and independent chance of being included in the sample. So it is same as the previous definition. Several methods have been adopted here. We have the lottery method and the table of random numbers. In this lottery method, we enumerate all the units of the sample, then all the numbers are, we put it in a drum and we just draw the lots. So the number which comes up, so they are considered as the sample. Then the next one is the table of random numbers. So random numbers means you just select the numbers from the table. So that is what we mean by the table of random numbers. With this, we come to the end of this session. Hope you have all followed it. Thank you.